Hello, and welcome to I Watched It With My Wife, documentary edition.
Ooh. I'm just kidding.
All right. Yeah, so this is the podcast where my wife, Sarah, and I watch and review documentaries and DocuSeries. We're currently watching the DocuSeries This Is A Robbery on Netflix. It is about the art heist at the Elizabeth Stewart Gardner Art Museum located in Boston, Massachusetts. This is our review of episode 2, which is called Vipers in the Grass. And this episode focuses on the security team that night, specifically the security guard who opened the door and allowed the thieves into the building. Rick Abbott is his name. We also hear from a couple of one of the other security guards who worked there at the time, a guy who worked the day shift and knew Rick. We hear a little bit from Rick. We hear from some police officers investigating. We actually hear about from 2 witnesses who saw the thieves show up dressed like cops. So it's we get a little bit more in depth in here, and we certainly see the investigation starts going towards Rick Abbott. So Sarah, what did you think of this episode of This Is a Robbery?
So all in all, I found it interesting, but I still don't think Rick Abbott is the culprit. While this episode begins really kind of leaning that way, it kind of towards the end seems like I'm not too sure that it was him. Or am I wrong?
No, it kind of hints that police, well, to this day, may suspect him, that they don't have enough to really, truly say that he was involved in any way.
I think if there was any involvement in him, it was minimal. Like maybe one night while like partying mentioned like, oh, the security there is shit to the wrong people. Or again, he let the police officers in. However, it was reported that there was a trip with the alarm earlier that evening. So the police came. I mean, is that really like that I don't know. If an alarm malfunctions and cops show up, I would be like, yeah, come on in. Everything's fine, but you can come check it out. Right? Like,
yeah, they found that there. I understand what you're saying there. It does seem odd that he wouldn't do a little bit more of a check while they're in the dead man's area there, because you have to be let in one door and then let out and then let in a second door. So it talks about that in
yeah, but they had
depth.
Uniforms. I don't know. I would have just been like, yeah, sure.
The other thing that it kind of mentions, of course, Rick Abbott talks about how he propped the door open every night. Most likely he was going to smoke because he was a hippie, and he was, and mentions that he went to work high a lot of nights, although he insists he hadn't had anything on the night in question. But when you go through some other things, there's some odd things with that. As I said, says none of the other security guards that were questioned by police said they never opened the door at night. Rick is the only one who says he opened. He says he opened it all the time. Yet when investigators pulled the tapes from the week before the robbery from it, they can't find any evidence of anyone propping the door open other than on the night in question. And Rick certainly worked some of those nights. So that raises a few, a few red flags about Rick. But at the end of the day, a lot of it from the interview and from the people who knew him, it really seems more like Rick was a guy who liked to party a little too much and probably just let slip there was a problem. And somebody, he lived in a house where they were having parties all the time. So, maybe somebody knew something and that set up
someone who maybe had affiliations with a shady character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Also, like, again, so the other reason I think he didn't admit to smoking weed at that time, I apologize for our phones going off. I don't think he would have admitted to that because this is 1990. So in 1990, if you smoked marijuana, you were a bad person. You're bad. And of course you were committing robberies because you were high, and only high people would commit robberies. Except we know now that that's not true. I mean, I don't know. I think that would be a really good reason not to admit to it.
Yes, I firmly believe that he was high that night and just didn't want to admit to it. I agree.
It
with
was
that.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
He's a hippie and it's St. Patrick's Day. He was
In
probably
Boston.
buzzed. He was probably a little bit high. He probably did prop the door open to take a hit. He probably did have his little joint or butt or something he would hide underneath a rock near where he had the door propped open, and every now and then he'd probably go out and take a hit. Maybe he didn't do that every single night, but maybe he did it on special occasions. St. Patrick's Day would be one of them, I guess.
Especially in Boston.
Yeah. So, and again, being a stoner does not make you a thief.
Yeah, the clientele that would be after this kind of stuff,
probably more of the cocaine crowd, the heroin crowd.
Not just from what we see from Rick Abbott, probably not who he was hanging around with. No,
probably not. I'm willing to bet that this is somebody, the person who or the persons involved in this robbery committed it for collateral of something. I believe they were discussing that too in the documentary.
Insurance money, maybe.
Yeah, insurance money or some type of collateral for drugs. Yeah, like heavy drugs, not just pot.
Talked about a known art thief who would steal paintings and then have them on hand. So when he got arrested for other things, he would use it to bargain down his sentence. So it's possible somebody was trying to do that. The flip side of that is none of these paintings have reemerged. So it seems odd that nothing would come from that. And then one other thing about Rick Abbott that doesn't kind of fit here. Now, he'd already put in his notice that he was leaving. He was quitting the job. And he says it got in the way of playing his music, which I firmly believe that. But it does look bad that a guy who's just put in his notice is leaving is the one working the shift where a robbery happens in that instance, because it does certainly point to police looking at him as a possible accomplice. Now, it doesn't mean anything, but it does give basically, it gives police a direction to look, and possibly, if somebody overheard him, maybe they also overheard that he put in his notice, and they could do that to where they get a lot of the heat on him rather than looking elsewhere.
Again, I'm still interested in the other security guards. I'm still interested in. I still want to hear about the the backup security guards and stuff like that. I really think the backup guy. Listen, he had a couple hours notice. The other guy wasn't coming in. That is enough time to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, let's do it tonight," or to call an accomplice of an accomplice. I'm sure that there were a couple people involved. I'm sure some of the people involved are not alive anymore. There's no way. Like there's no way. This happened in 1990.
This happened in 1990. Some of these people are dead, of course.
Yeah, I'm certain that some of these people involved are dead. And probably maybe because of their involvement in here. I'm just saying. But do I think that this is a possibility that this is like mafia related, mob related?
It's possible.
I mean, we even had the lady who was like Karen, who was like, everybody knows mob people. Like, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Tell me you know people in the mob without telling me you know people in the mob.
Yeah, it's
but it's New England.
It's mob related. It's Boston. Yeah, very easily believe it's mob related. I have a hard time believing too many of the security guards were specifically in on it.
If there was, it'd be one security guard who knew.
I feel like if somebody was involved, it was somebody higher up within the museum than the security guards. Now, obviously, it wasn't the main curator, but maybe an assistant, maybe the owner wanting, like I said, maybe the owner wanting some insurance payments, because I guarantee you every one of those paintings was insured.
Maybe. I don't know, but it's amazing to me that none of these paintings have shown up yet.
Yeah, that is definitely
That's amazing to me that none of them have shown up anywhere. Like, where the hell did they burn them?
Maybe it's just on in some rich guy's basement.
I mean, I don't know. I find that hard to believe, though. Like, because you know damn well if I had something that special, I'd be like showing people, like, look at how important I am. Or unless it's like a look at how important I am. If you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have questions about like what kind of person would have this stashed away and where. That's the thing that really gets me. They had to have destroyed it. I believe it was probably destroyed.
That's probably destroyed.
Time will tell.
Hopefully we'll find something, even if it is some, discarded pieces of the destroyed thing, so we can at least have that answered.
Because what, like you're gonna get caught with this, I don't know. I think the artwork's been destroyed, but that's just my theory. These are my theories. My theories are a little crazy. Maybe they're not. I don't know.
Another interesting thing is they interviewed two people who were out, leaving the bars on the night of St. Patrick's Day, walking in the neighborhood where the museum was, and they spotted the cops getting out of a Dodge Daytona, an unmarked Dodge Daytona, but they were uniformed officers going up to the museum. Now, they didn't think anything of it. It's like, two cops going up to a museum, no big deal. But it's, when they mentioned it and they went in for, for their questioning to give their witness statements and everything, I find it out one of the woman who was interviewed said, they never called me back with anything. You would think, especially knowing that the criminals were dressed like cops, and this woman saw two people dressed like cops get out of an unmarked car, which if you're in uniform is very odd to be in an unmarked car.
Yeah, usually you're not in uniform in unmarked cars.
Yeah, if somebody's on duty in an unmarked car, they're usually a detective, which means they're also usually in plain clothes rather than in a uniform. So it just seems so odd that she could, give the witness testimony and they have not questioned, nobody has questioned her, which makes me wonder if the people who did this also had somebody on the police force who shut it down.
Yeah, because nobody in the mob has ever had friends that are cops. That's never happened, ever, in the history of the world, ever.
Watch Goodfellas.
I'm literally going to be murdered for this, for my opinions. I'm going to be a mob hit. Guys, don't come after me. I'm just saying.
But yeah.
I'm not targeting a specific person.
So that'll wrap up episode 2. This is a very interesting docuseries overall, especially since it's close to where we live. And it's one of the biggest crimes in this area, unsolved crimes in this area.
Yeah, I kind of want to go to this museum now, and I'm not a museum person. I will say this. I had a hard time staying awake again for this episode.
The music is very sleepy. I will
point that out. I don't know what it is about this documentary, but I'm struggling to stay awake watching it. I was nodding off at the end. I was having a real hard time staying awake.
It's also after midnight. All right, now, of course, it says that'll wrap up most of our review section. So let's go to Sarah's favorite segment, Snacks with Sarah.
We had 3D Doritos because I really like Doritos. And I had a pickle, a giant pickle. And
yeah, you did.
Oh my God. No, when they sell the pickles in the bags, I stopped at the gas station on the way home to get snacks to watch this. And I got 3D Doritos, a giant pickle, and mozzarella wrapped with prosciutto.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pink lemonade, and I put some pink Whitney in it, and that was my cocktail.
Oh, yeah, and I had a Monster energy drink so I could stay up and edit our other podcast, Caregiver Chronicles, which we also recorded that night when she got home from work, and do a couple of other things before I went to bed.
Yeah, but I was tired.
Yeah, I was about to say, because, you went to bed as soon as we got done watching it. I was up till almost 2 doing stuff.
Sorry.
But that's neither here nor there. So we will recap. We'll give you a full rating when we finish all 4 episodes of this. So we'll see you next time on I Watched It With My Wife, Documentary Edition.